Thank you so much for having me here. As a first thing, disclaimer, uh, the whole mobile and especially hybrid mobile apps scene is it's extremely new and it's ongoing, and there are so many changes happening all the time. And what Casper has just mentioned, uh, the whole React Native Airbnb situation has affected us, and of course, it is something that we need to live with. And I'm not saying that it's not a problem. It's actually a problem. We think still that it's a good idea, and that's why we continue to do with React Native. But of course, something could happen tomorrow at Facebook, and suddenly Mark Zuckerberg doesn't think React Native is good, and they are 50% of the they contribute 50% to all new features in React Native. That could have a big impact. So disclaimer on that. About myself, my name is Niccolo, and I have an experience, technical experience, first in the aerospace industry, and then I've been working on the financial products in Tradeshift. That's also where I met my co-founder Jeppe, and I've also been working as a consultant for Dips and Nets when it comes to projects like mobile pay and other projects on the scene. About Plio. So Jeppe and I, we founded it in 2015, and the company has been growing quite a lot since then. We have more than 10,000 active users in Denmark and the UK, and we are soon, 10 days soon, launching in Sweden and Germany. And we're currently growing around 15 to 20% month by month in the number of active users. And we also, other customers of ours are pretty happy. So we have 5 stars on Trustpilot and Capterra, and a lot of it is it's related, we think, at least for what we hear also when it comes to the NPS, about the simplicity of the product. It's a product that is simple. You get onboarded as an employee or as a manager, and it's just simple to use, and that of course has an impact into the way it has been built. So, what is Plio? Plio is a software, is a card, is a tool, and what we do with Plio is that we bring better spending to future workplaces, and that's very generic, but it represents fully our mission. And with better, we mean that it's easy. It's automated, at least everything that can be automated, and it's seamless, and it also saves money and time. And when it comes to the future workplaces, Plio is a product that allows employee to spend money on behalf of the company in the best possible way, and this represents the vision that we have about how workplaces are going to be, where employees are going to have much more flexibility of doing that without having to rely on micromanagement from administrators, or to rely on departments in the company to actually taking care of the spending. And to do this, of course, you need to have a payment method. That is the Pleo card that allows you to pay, and it's a MasterCard, and an application. In the beginning, when we started, and that was 2 years ago, it was only a web application. So you had to reconcile all of your purchases by hand, by taking first a picture with your phone and then uploading them on the web app. And then, of course, like 1 or 2 months after that, we of course started to work on the mobile application, because we want to be simple, and simple is not to take a picture and upload it on your computer. So this was the team at that point 2 years ago, and then we asked this guy, our front-end React developer, to come up with a web application as fast as we could. And he took the challenge, and of course he went for the technology and the framework that he knew the best. That was React Native on top of React. And the nice thing about React Native, if you have developers that are already developing a React web application, you can fairly seamlessly put that code and then slightly adjust it and bring it to mobile. And it's really like you can reuse the design, you can reuse the styling, and especially you can reuse the business intelligence. And it's actively supported by Facebook. There has been some moments where we have been questioning this, but seems like they are actively supporting it. Was used by Airbnb. They are now sunsetting it, as they say, and it's used by Instagram. And by the way, we are completely fine into this because we have already the resources. We have we had this very small team, and this was for us the easiest choice without investing too much time. Of course, it's a bit different depending on if you have a team that is using a different web platform, or you have a mobile first approach where you don't even have a web application. So Rene, the front-end developer, took 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, we actually released our first version of Pleo. And now 2 years have passed. Are we still happy about that? Yes and no. And it's really it's very open. It's part of my disclaimer, and it's also reflected on the font. It's very open, yes or no. We are very happy about the fact that we only have a single code base for our web application and for the mobile, for Android and iOS. I must say, it's not one-to-one on the web application, and also the mobile application of the website. It has actually different styles from the mobile app, but still all the business logic, all the main components, all the styling, all the rules when it comes to form filling and so forth, these have been migrated one-to-one from one application to the other, and majority of it is actually in its own core repository, and then different softwares, a different part of the application are using it. And actually, just for bringing you up to speed with what our application is, I have a small video about how it looks like. And this is the latest, is actually not even from the Pleo app, but it's from a side project that we have, that is the ELOP app, where we have all the new improvements to the application that we give to our beta customers, and then they can try, and then from that we actually bring them into our main application. And this is the latest version out of our test application, ELOP, that is going to go in production and become our Play application. So this is the view for an employee. So as you will see, it's fairly simple. It all starts with you with your Pleo card, or in its physical or virtual form, that go and buy something. In this case, you're buying something at the store. You swipe on a notification, application boots, you take a picture out of the receipt. All information in the bottom are already filled. You can maybe fill if you have to apply to a project, and you're done. And here is the list of all the purchases that I've done. Meanwhile, in here, the receipt is uploading in the background. I can change different type of project categories. I can upload another receipt if I need, or I can upload receipts that I have uploaded before, maybe because they were online purchases. Now it's loaded, done. Can scroll through all the past purchases, see my own profile, change my password, my passcode, see my Pleo virtual card, block my card if I think it has maybe been compromised, copy the information so that I can use them on another application in a mobile. Card is disabled. Card is enabled back. Filtering, very simple. Only my own purchases, or if I am a manager of a team, purchases of other people in my own team. And that's really it. It's intentionally a very simple application, but it has a couple of interactions that are very important and are done many times by all our customers. So another thing, it's more features with less developers. At that time, we only had one front-end developer that was working on that. And it was great to have a single person that was able to take care of all our applications. And the other thing is also that and now this is a bit later on, and now that we hired more people and we have a bit more specialized mobile developers that do React Native, the moment that we are coming close to a release or the moment that the team is running behind, we can just have front-enders and even designer that can jump into the application and actually help out developing. And really, we have seen more and more that the designer gets a bit more of a rough version out of the final application and just fix all these details by hand. And of course, it's a designer that knows and they must know CSS, of course. And another thing that it's very cool, and actually is through the same the app portal from Microsoft, we actually are able to push in real time code updates to our application, and it's super cool. We know that maybe this will not last long. We discussed this with Casper because it's kind of against the rules from Apple at least. But it allows us to do small changes, especially bug fixes that we can deploy right away to all our customers without waiting for them to update the application. And this is really amazing. Sometimes you need to change something in the API, or sometimes you have a bug that is affecting the users, and it's amazing to be able to do that without having to send a mass communication to our customers, and I think it's even worse, to have to block access to the app and say you must update if you want to continue using the experience. So this is really great and has been working really well for us. But there is also a no part of which we are not super happy about this. The first one, again, has been brought by Casper. It's still early stage after 3 years, and it's really early stage in the way the approach is made to new release. When I ask one mobile developer to do the video, we were running out of version 0.55, and he was just updating it to 0.57, and it just sent it to compile, no change in the code, and it didn't compile. Same code, just changing out of a minor version, and it didn't compile. There were small tweaks to be done. This happens constantly. And sometimes there are breaking changes that require maybe 1 man week to be fixed. And that doesn't happen so often, but there could be some times of which, for example, a routing system is deprecated, and then you need to migrate your routing to the one that is suggested. So there are issues, and it's definitely less performant than native. It's much more performant than a wrap application, but it's less performant than native. And on this, like Juan, our mobile developer, has, I think, a really nice expression on this, and it says that it takes an extremely skilled React Native developer to do an application that is as performant as what a mediocre native developer can do. Because everything is done automatically by Apple or by Android. by the Android Studio. But otherwise, if you want to do in React Native and you want to achieve the same performance, you have to think really well of how is the data is flowing, how the views are flowing, how fast it's going to be to load each screen. And actually it requires to have some deep knowledge out of the framework underneath in order to understand what is the best way to speed up the application. And on Android, it's even worse than iOS. Actually, yesterday evening, speaking again with the developers, we were discussing the latest application, our version 1.8, and they told me that things actually have been improved slightly on the version 57, but still there is quite a gap. And I have a video to explain to you what I'm talking about. So there are two things that we have been impacted the most when it comes to performance in React Native. One is the loading speed and loading the bundle, and also loading the screens themselves. The first thing about the bundle is just because it's quite a sizable amount of code and libraries that has to be loaded before you can display anything. And the other one, instead, when loading the screen, it's related to the fact that React and the whole JavaScript engine is asynchronous, while instead you need to render this into a synchronous system. So this means that there is no way for the React Native engine to have all the information ready for the synchronous process. So you will start with a white screen and then information comes. It's very fast, but if you have a good eye, you can see it, or if you are on a very slow Android device, you can see it. Then there is another one issue, and it's related to the way React Native is made. You have your JavaScript side where you have your business logic, and this still runs into JavaScript, and most likely through your business logic, you're fetching all the data. And then there is the native UI. And every time you need to pass information from the JavaScript side to the native UI, you need to perform some operation with the data. It's parsing of the data, it's converting it from one side to the other. And if you have a lot of data that you want to transfer very fast, you can see that this creates a slowdown. And this slowdown affects the UI. So let's look at it. Here I have a row. Let's go back. First one, let's do the asynchronous loading of the page. Now I have the list and I'm clicking on a page. It was very fast. This is because I took it in iOS that is much more performant. But it starts white and then it displays. And that's annoying. It's not so much annoying in iOS, but in Android could be like 500 milliseconds until something appears. So that's one issue for sure. The second one is instead, and actually once you do that again, once you do that again, and actually the view has already been loaded, you notice it's much less. It's almost instantaneous. So it's like first time you are bringing up a resource. So in that case, if you click on the list and then you have the small flickering, once you go back on the list and you click on somewhere else, if that's still loaded, that's almost instantaneous. The other issue is instead it's on a long list. So now I have a list with hundreds of expensive and I'm scrolling to them. And I'll start now to scroll faster and faster and you will see what happens. So I'm scrolling, now a lot more expensive, now I scroll a lot. There was a jump in the list. Let's do it again. Scrolling, Have you seen it? That one was conversion. REST API got all the data. All the data is rated in JSON. Now it's getting passed through the binding. It's not able to parse fast enough. The screen is scrolling. I block the screen, wait for data, now display the data. And this is, it's a bit cheated because in iOS it's actually not so bad. But if you go to Android and if you go like to 1 year old or 2 years old device, you actually notice it quite a bit, and it's a bit annoying. Of course, you know, it's no deal breaker. It's not that the users are not able to use the application, but still the worst nightmare that you can have when you do something like this is suddenly, and I saw it on an app yesterday in the Play Store, when they write, it feels like a wrapped website. This is like, you know, it's the worst offense that you can get. So no, really, like I put a lot of time on that. And this is really like something that if you go to, with an old Android device, is a problem that you definitely could have. So what is next? For sure, like the company is much bigger now. After 2 years, we, in the beginning, when we started, we only had 1 backend developers and 1 front-end developer. And now we're many more. So many that we don't even have anymore the space to take a picture of the whole team, and actually we had to make a room for our compliance department. But now we are 65 people, and we have like 12 developers. So we start hiring, and we have now 1.5 full-time mobile developer, and we have 2 more front-enders. So, and now we have, of course, you know, our application and our website. So does it still make sense for us with the size of our team now that we have dedicated mobile developers to actually still be in React Native? And I think the answer is still yes. But for sure, now that we grow as a company, our focus will be, and is already more and more, our mobile application. Before it was web application to fill all the gaps that we needed. You need to have an admin panel, you need to have a panel for the bookkeeper to reconcile, you need to export, you need to be able to see your expenses. But now, and the web application and the mobile application is mostly like you take a picture of it. But now, more and more that our product grows, more and more that we have more resources in design and more resources in development, we want to focus on the app. We want to make sure that all the issues that you can have when you are handling expenses. Did you spend too much? Were you allowed to do this? Or I think this is a private expense, or you're running out of money, out of the limits. All of this that currently now it's done in our web application, this is going more and more in the mobile. And this is going to be a lot of interactions that our users need to do on the app all day. And once you have interactions that are done several times a day, once you have interactions that require the application to be as fast as possible, then those glitches that I just shown, those are very important. So the way we see it is that we want, and we are already doing, we're looking at what are the interactions, what are the part of the application that are the ones that are the most critical. For example, on the video that I just showed you, when you pay with a Pleo card and you are at the railway station, and then you have something in your hand, and then you want to take a receipt and then run to your train, then to load a bundle and to take 3 seconds to load a bundle and 1 second for the camera to pop up, that's too fast. So that is critical for us, and that will become fully native. Scrolling on the list, still a debate on that. I think we can still work on that. But other things like that one, also we are working on improving the quality of the image that we, once you take the picture, for example, find in the corners and increase contrast things like this that improve drastically the experience and they distinguish us from the competition, those things will be fully native and will be fully native part of the application. And actually, like, if you look at the way React Native as it's made, this is actually the way this has been intended for React Native. Like, if you read the specification, or even if you see as Facebook has been doing it, that's the way they do it. They take everything that is critical, where you make your money, and for Facebook is for you to be able to scroll as much as you can on your feed list and be able to see as much advertisements as you can. That of course is native and it will be native. And for us, the same, that will be native. But your settings page, or like your sign up page, or some new or some functionality that is just a one-off, or something that you do it once in a month, once in 2 weeks, that can be in React Native. And that's the way we see it, and that's the way we are going to continue working on in our application. And of course, maybe when we are going to have, I don't know, 6 full-time mobile developers, maybe we can afford into having 3 and 3 in iOS, 3 in iOS and 3 in Android, and maybe we can go into full native. But we don't see right now the need for migrating to native the screens that don't require a native experience. And that's what we think. Again, from the font you can see it's very personal, and I think, you know, like it's only backed by a 2 years experience, but that's the way we see it. And that was it. Any question? Yes?
So, of course, there is an overhead in starting out React Native, and a part of that is